Tonight, when you climb into bed and roll onto your favorite side, the side you've been sleeping on for the last 30 or 40 years, your heart is going to start working harder than it should, quietly, invisibly, for the next 7 to 8 hours. You won't feel it. You won't dream about it. But your cardiovascular system will be paying a price you never agreed to. And by the time I'm done explaining why, you may never lie down the same way again. 3 nights ago, a 7-1-year-old patient of mine woke up at 4 a.m., unable to lift his left arm. His wife called 911. The paramedics arrived within minutes. And when the ER doctors ran their scans, they confirmed exactly what they feared: a stroke had quietly occurred hours earlier, while he was sound asleep next to his wife of 46 years. He didn't smoke. He wasn't overweight. He took his blood pressure medication every morning without fail. His last checkup 3 months earlier had come back completely clean. But there was something none of his doctors had ever asked him about. Something that had been happening every single night for the last 20 years of his life. I've spent years working with patients in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Good people who eat well, take their medications, and never miss an appointment. And yet something is quietly happening to them every single night that nobody is warning them about. The way you sleep, the angle of your neck, the direction your body faces, the position of your spine is actively influencing how well blood and oxygen reach your brain for 7 to 8 hours straight, night after night, year after year. And here is the number that should stop you in your tracks. Stroke risk spikes by 49% between 6 a.m. and noon. That isn't random. That isn't coincidence. It's directly tied to what your cardiovascular system was forced to endure in the hours before you opened your eyes. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 6 sleeping mistakes. And then I'll show you the 2 sleeping positions that researchers say your aging brain is actually begging for tonight. But before we go any further, do me a favor right now. Drop a comment and tell me, are you a back sleeper, a side sleeper, or a stomach sleeper? I'll be referencing all 3 throughout this video, and your honest answer is going to matter very soon. Before we get into the mistakes, you need to understand why sleep position matters so much more as we age, because once the mechanism makes sense, everything else falls into place. In your 20s and 30s, your blood vessels are elastic. They stretch, they adapt, they compensate. Sleep in a strange position. Wake up with a stiff neck, that's usually the end of the story. But here's what changes after 60. Your arterial walls begin to stiffen. The small vessels feeding your brain become less flexible. Your blood pressure regulation system, the one that quietly keeps everything balanced behind the scenes, becomes slower to respond, especially at night. Healthy sleepers experience a natural 10 to 20% drop in blood pressure during sleep. Doctors call this overnight blood pressure dipping, and it is deeply protective. It's your body recovering. But if your sleep position is compressing the wrong vessels, restricting your airflow, or disrupting your circulation, that protective dip gets interrupted. And what replaces it is something your aging cardiovascular system simply cannot afford. That's the framework. Now let's get into the list, starting with the very thing I opened this video with. Mistake 1. Right side sleeping with a cardiovascular history. This is the mistake I led with for a reason. Because side sleeping in general is considered one of the better positions, and for most people, it absolutely is. But the direction you face matters far more than most people realize. Your heart sits slightly to the left of center in your chest. It has a natural orientation. When you lie on your right side, gravity pulls your heart slightly away from its optimal resting position. More importantly, your body weight compresses the right side of your torso, and the inferior vena cava, one of the largest veins in the entire body, runs directly through that region. The inferior vena cava has exactly one job: return blood from everything below your waist, your legs, your abdomen, your digestive organs back up to your heart. When you compress that vein by lying on your right, the return flow becomes restricted. Your heart has to work harder just to fill each chamber properly. For a healthy 30-year-old, this is compensated for effortlessly. But for someone over 60 managing borderline heart function, mild heart failure, or chronic high blood pressure, your heart is already running close to its ceiling. Adding unnecessary nightly resistance is like running your car engine 10% harder every single night for years on end. The European Journal of Heart Failure published findings showing that patients with heart failure naturally and instinctively avoided right-sided sleeping. Their bodies had detected the problem before their conscious minds understood why. That instinct is worth listening to. Mistake 2. Stomach sleeping. The position that twists everything. This is the position that surprises people the most, because stomach sleeping feels harmless. You're not putting weight on your heart. You're not compressing your lungs directly. It's just lying face down. What's the problem? The problem is your neck. When you sleep on your stomach, you physically cannot breathe face down into a mattress, so you rotate your head almost always to the same side every single night because we are creatures of habit. Now picture what that means structurally. Your neck is rotated up to 90 degrees for 7, 8, sometimes 9 hours. Running along the sides of your cervical spine, the bones in your neck are two arteries called the vertebral arteries. These vessels carry blood directly to your brainstem, your cerebellum, and the regions responsible for balance, breathing regulation, and coordination. When your neck is rotated significantly to one side for prolonged periods, these arteries can become kinked. Think of it like stepping on a garden hose. Flow doesn't stop completely, but it becomes meaningfully restricted. Research published in the Journal of Manipulative and Physiological Therapeutics confirmed that extreme cervical rotation measurably reduces vertebral artery blood flow velocity. And then there's a second problem stacked right on top. Your rib cage is pressed against the mattress. Every breath you take all night is a breath fighting against compression. Your diaphragm can't fully descend. You never reach full tidal volume, the deepest, most restorative breath your lungs are capable of taking. Lower oxygen per breath, restricted artery, both happening simultaneously for hours. For a 3, 5-year-old, the body compensates. For a 6, 8-year-old, with any degree of hypertension or cardiovascular history, this is a cumulative problem building silently in the dark. Mistake 3. The tightly curled fetal position. The fetal position, knees pulled up toward the chest, shoulders rounded inward, chin tucked down. For many people, especially women over 60, this is the default comfort position. It feels warm. It feels protected. It feels like the safest way to fall asleep. And emotionally, I completely understand the appeal. But physiologically, 3 things go wrong at the same time. First, your lungs are compressed. The rib cage can't fully expand. Every breath is shallower than your body actually needs, and blood oxygen saturation dips incrementally across an entire night's sleep. Second, the blood vessels running through your hip joints and behind your knees, particularly the popliteal vessels, get bent and partially compressed. Circulation to and from your lower limbs is reduced. If you already deal with swollen ankles or poor leg circulation, this position quietly makes both worse. Third, your neck is flexed. We've already discussed what that does to vertebral artery flow. All of those same concerns apply here, just through a whole body version of the same compression pattern. Research in respiratory physiology and neurobiology documented that sustained spinal flexion during sleep measurably reduces tidal volume, the amount of air inhaled per breath. Multiply a 10% reduction across every breath in an 8-hour night, and you're talking about significantly less oxygen reaching already aging brain tissue. If this is you, if you've been curling up the exact same way for the past 30 years, the adjustment doesn't have to be dramatic. A body pillow placed between your knees and a slight opening of your hip angle. Small changes, real improvements. Mistake 4, stacking multiple pillows under your head. Walk into 9 out of 10 bedrooms in this country, and you'll find at least 2 pillows stacked on the bed. Sometimes 3, sometimes 4. People do this with the very best of intentions: acid reflux, sinus drainage, snoring, breathing difficulties. And a small amount of elevation does genuinely help with some of those issues. But here's what happens when the elevation becomes excessive. Your head gets pushed forward, your chin tilts toward your chest. And that forward bend of the neck, what clinicians call cervical flexion, compresses the vertebral arteries we just covered. There's also a third vessel that almost never gets mentioned in this conversation: the internal jugular vein. This vein is your brain's primary drainage pathway. It carries deoxygenated blood back down from your brain toward your heart. When your neck is bent forward excessively, that drainage pathway becomes partially obstructed. Blood drains less efficiently. Pressure inside the skull builds slowly, and your brain's ability to clear metabolic waste overnight becomes compromised. You might notice this the very next morning as brain fog, a heaviness behind the eyes, or that frustrating feeling of waking up after 8 full hours and still not feeling rested. You're not lazy. Your brain may have literally been waterlogged overnight. The correction is simple: 1 pillow. 1 properly contoured pillow. Ideally, a memory foam cervical pillow that supports the natural curve of your neck, rather than forcing it into an angle. Many of my patients have reported that their morning headaches disappeared within a week of making this single change. How many pillows are you currently sleeping on? Drop the number in the comments. I read every single one. Mistake 5, eating late and sipping alcohol close to bedtime. This is the one that amplifies every other mistake on this list. And it's the most socially normal mistake of them all. You finish dinner around 7:30, a glass of wine while watching the evening news, in bed by 10. That sounds like a perfectly ordinary night for millions of adults over 60. Here's what's actually happening inside you while you sleep. After a large meal, your body reroutes blood toward the digestive system. Significant blood volume is diverted away from your brain and your heart toward your gut. In younger bodies, this redistribution is managed seamlessly. In older bodies, with less arterial elasticity and a slower autonomic response, this shift can create transient drops in cerebral blood flow. Brief moments where your brain is being subtly undersupplied. Now add alcohol on top of that. Alcohol is a vasodilator. It relaxes and widens your blood vessels, which causes blood pressure to drop. Your body senses the drop and overcorrects by constricting vessels and raising pressure again. Blood pressure starts swinging up, down, throughout the night. In vessels that are already dealing with plaque, stiffness, or age-related fragility, that oscillation puts real stress on arterial walls, real wear, real damage accumulating in silence. The American Journal of Hypertension studied this exact pattern and found that even moderate alcohol consumption within 3 hours of sleep disrupted the natural nighttime blood pressure dip that healthy sleepers depend on. Without that dip, overnight cardiovascular strain rises significantly. You probably know the feeling waking up at 2 a.m. Heart hammering, slightly sweaty, mouth dry. You roll over and tell yourself it was just a strange dream. But what you experienced may have been your vascular system trying to stabilize itself through a wave of pressure fluctuation it wasn't built to handle gracefully. The fix is straightforward. Finish eating at least 3 hours before bed. If you drink alcohol, stop 4 to 5 hours before sleep. And take a gentle 5-minute walk after dinner. Not exercise, just movement. It begins digestion, normalizes blood sugar, and gives your cardiovascular system a chance to settle before you ever go horizontal. Mistake 6: sleeping completely flat without head elevation. I'm saving this one for last because it sounds so harmless that most people refuse to believe it's a problem. Physiotherapy websites praise it. Mattress companies build their entire marketing around it. But there's a critical piece they're not showing you. When you lie completely flat, especially after age 60, blood doesn't distribute the way it does in a younger body. Without gravity working in your favor, cerebrospinal fluid, the fluid that cushions your brain inside your skull, begins to pool. Intracranial pressure edges upward. The tiny vessels in your brain that have already absorbed years of mild wear are now operating under slightly more pressure than they should be for 7 to 8 hours straight. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine found that even modest head elevation as little as 15 degrees led to measurable improvements in intracranial pressure and nighttime blood flow dynamics. Here's the symptom most people completely misread. You wake up at 3 a.m. with a dull, throbbing headache maybe behind your eyes, maybe at the base of your skull. You think to yourself, I'm getting older. Headaches happen. You drink a glass of water, take an ibuprofen, and go back to sleep. But what if that headache is your brain signaling that the pressure inside has been too high for hours? The fix is simple, a 15-degree elevation of your upper body. And I'm about to show you exactly how to achieve that safely. The 2 positions your brain actually wants tonight. Position 1, left side sleeping. This is without question the most evidence-supported sleep position for cardiovascular and neurological health in adults over 60. When you sleep on your left side, gravity works with your heart's natural orientation. The inferior vena cava, the vein we discussed earlier, runs on the right side of your spine. Left side sleeping removes compression from that vein entirely, allowing blood to return to the heart freely and efficiently. Your heart works less. Circulation stabilizes. But here's the discovery that changed how sleep researchers think about position entirely. About a decade ago, scientists identified a system called the glymphatic system, your brain's overnight janitorial crew. While you sleep, cerebrospinal fluid pulses through the spaces between your brain cells, flushing out metabolic waste products, including amyloid beta and tau proteins. The same proteins found in excessive quantities in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. A landmark study published in the Journal of Neuroscience found that this glymphatic clearance is most efficient when you sleep on your side, and the left side appears to offer slightly better drainage geometry due to the brain's natural asymmetry and the direction of cerebrospinal fluid flow. This means left side sleeping isn't just about tonight's circulation. It's about whether your brain is adequately clearing the waste products that, over decades, accumulate into cognitive decline. If you've never been a side sleeper, place a full-length body pillow in front of you to prevent rolling back. Put a pillow between your knees to keep your spine neutral. Give it 7 nights. Your body will adapt faster than you expect. Position 2. Back sleeping with 15-degree elevation. For those who genuinely cannot tolerate side sleeping due to joint pain, shoulder arthritis, or decades of back sleeping habit, there is a safe and effective alternative. Elevating your upper body between 15 and 30 degrees. And I want to be precise here. This isn't about stacking pillows under your head. The entire upper torso needs to be on a gradual incline. A wedge pillow works well. An adjustable bed frame works even better. What does this achieve? It uses gravity to assist blood return from your lower body. It reduces the intracranial pressure pooling effect that flat back sleeping creates. It keeps your airway more open, improving oxygen delivery throughout the entire night. If you add a small pillow under your knees to maintain the natural lumbar curve, you achieve what sleep researchers call a zero-gravity posture pressure, distributed evenly across your entire body, minimizing strain on any single vessel or joint. This position is particularly beneficial if you experience mild sleep apnea, frequent morning headaches, swollen legs, or have been told that your blood pressure remains elevated even while you sleep. Position alone isn't the complete picture, though. Your sleep environment shapes whether your cardiovascular system recovers or labors through the night. Temperature. Keep your bedroom between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. A cooler environment helps your core temperature drop the biological trigger for deep, restorative sleep. It also naturally lowers nighttime blood pressure. Too warm, and your heart rate stays elevated, keeping you locked in the shallow sleep stages where no meaningful cardiovascular recovery happens. Light and screens. Blue light from phones and tablets after 9 p.m. suppresses melatonin production and delays your entry into deep sleep. Your brain's glymphatic system, the waste clearance mechanism we just discussed, operates most actively during deep sleep. Disrupt that, and the clearing stops. Put the phone down. Read something physical instead. Noise. Sounds that don't fully wake. You still interrupt deep sleep through brief, invisible microarousals. Your heart rate spikes. Cortisol rises. These events don't register consciously, but your vascular system notices every single one. A white noise machine or a simple pair of earplugs can eliminate this variable entirely. One monitoring tool worth considering: an overnight pulse oximeter, a small clip-on device that tracks your blood oxygen throughout the night. If your oxygen regularly drops below 92%, that's a conversation you need to have with your doctor. It could indicate sleep apnea, circulation issues, or early respiratory problems, all of which significantly increase stroke risk. This is data your physician will actually want to see. Here's what I need you to take away from today. Your stroke risk doesn't clock out the moment you fall asleep. In many ways, the hours between midnight and dawn are the most critical hours in your entire cardiovascular day. And the position your body is in during those hours is something you have direct, immediate, zero-cost control over. Pick one thing from today. Just one. Switch to your left side tonight. Elevate your upper body 15 degrees. Stop eating within 3 hours of bed. Trade 3 stacked pillows for 1 contoured cervical pillow. Any single one of these is not a small thing. It's a consistent nightly intervention that compounds over weeks, months, and years. Now, drop a comment below and tell me which change are you going to make first. Reading your answers genuinely helps me understand what you're dealing with. And it might help someone else in this community recognize a pattern they've been quietly ignoring. If this video gave you something your last doctor's appointment never did, please hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. A spouse, a parent, a sibling over 60 who keeps waking up with unexplained headaches and chalking it up to age. And subscribe right now, because next week I'm covering the 5 early morning symptoms that cardiologists say are far more serious than most people recognize. Symptoms that appear in the first 20 minutes after you wake up. Symptoms that get dismissed as just getting older. But that may actually be your body sending you a very specific warning. You'll want to catch that one. Until then, sleep smart, protect your brain,